right, so we're almost in. All right, I think we're ready. Should we?
Yeah.
Kick it up. All right, and we're live. And all right, so welcome to Music is Bad and You Should Feel Bad. And okay, it's working. Make sure this dude's actually going to show up. All right, so today we're talking about Play Your Old Shit tours. And we got to see 2 of them in about 2 weeks. It was pretty cool. A lot of bands are getting old, and nobody wants to hear their new stuff.
Right, and they're realizing where the money's coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, so the first one is Children of Bodom, which they announced. Have you ever seen them before, or was it your first time for you too?
No, I've never seen them before because. So
'Cause
again, I only like those first 3 albums.
Yeah.
And the footage that I've seen of them live has not been good.
Right, same. So I figured even if they played the old stuff, who knows if it would be like a sloppy mess. And so, yeah, so like I listened to Hate Breeder and Follow the Reaper, and then Hate Crew came out, and I was like, nope.
Yeah.
That's done.
Yeah.
And so,
Something Wild was my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Hate Crew, it was the same deal. When that came out, I was like, and it's gone.
Yeah. So they announced they were doing, I guess, 20th anniversary of them being a band.
Of them being down and dirty, apparently, according to the marquee.
Right, the marquee is down 20 years down and dirty. And I was like, I don't know how that.
I feel like Something Wild probably came out in 1997.
Yeah, that's probably what that would make sense. Yeah, so
because Hate Crew was like 2003. Because I remember I was at Berkeley. And so, 4 albums and, 1 every other year, like something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So it either came out like 97 or 99. So it's either 28th anniversary of the album or of them being a band, whatever.
Yeah. So basically, we both had never seen them before for the same reasons, because either they didn't sound like they were good live, and also they kept putting out worse and worse new material.
Well, again, I don't even know, because they fell victim to my rule.
Right.
Where I didn't listen to anything from the last decade.
I briefly remember there was a lot of stuff where if I heard anything, I was like, same crap, or I didn't really try until there was one where somebody was like, it's a return to form. So I listened to a track and I was like, no. Not which form did you think they were returning to? Hate Crew? Because that's not.
We know a lot of really unreliable people, though. Right, so that's that can be dicey.
That's true. So this was like, okay, I'll go see them this time, and it'll either be good or it won't. Either way, I won't really ever have to just like consider going again. But it was really good. And
yeah, it was awesome.
It was a good set list, and there's a couple moments where it was a little sloppy, but it was better than I expected, frankly, based on all the stuff I'd seen online.
Yeah, and so I think a big part of that is I think Alexi's clean now. I think he's not even drinking anymore.
Yeah.
So I also think he just got married, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
because I'm not really
So this is the
really follow metal news.
It's the getting clean uptick, but then in 10 more years it'll be the I'm clean, but it's boring,
right?
And
But
I hate myself, and uninspired. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so that's
who knows?
Who knows?
They were pretty tight. There was only one obvious mistake that I caught which when he completely missed that pinch harmonic. But I mean that's
right.
Shit happens.
Yeah.
The thing that was funny, very clearly a mistake, and they told everyone, was, so I think they were running late, because the set ended at 10:32, which is an odd time.
Yeah.
And the last note wasn't even done ringing, and they played the house music like immediately. So they came out at the start of the encore, and we're like, okay, we were supposed to have this intro, and it's really cool, but we're not doing that. So just here's the song.
Yeah.
And I think that was because they were over time. Like, I think they were basically like, you're going to have to cut a song or something. And they were like, no, okay, well, let's just skip the whole, like...
Right, skip the 2 minutes, minute long intro or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, aside from that, they were really good. I mean, like, so I don't have, like, an emotional attachment to this band. Like, not... Like, their songs are just, like, cool metal songs.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing that I was like, oh, man, if they play this song, it's going to be awesome. So it was just, like, a fun show.
Yeah.
But it was, like, really fun. And they did a really great job. And like I said, they sounded good. They didn't really screw up. And even all their, like, because they have a bunch of, like, like, we play the licks together stuff.
Right.
Either between the two guitar players or Alexi and the keyboard, whatever. Like, they were all in time.
Yeah.
Like, it was totally solid.
That's pretty much how I feel about the band too, because like that was what I liked about them. There was cool guitar parts and cool harmonies, and it was like just a little bit of the neoclassical kind of thing, but not going overboard like Yngwie.
Right, it wasn't in every song,
and
it's just every once in a while.
And it was that mixed with like death metal stuff, and like I never liked his vocals that much, but.
Right, but they're fine.
And they're good because if you could understand the words, you would like them even less. Because like, you actually look at the lyrics, you're like, oh, I'm glad I can understand that. Like,
right, like red light. It's like red light in my eyes. I'm like, is this about a district somewhere? like what is this song?
I don't know. And like I always forgot that I actually liked. When I saw it on the set list, I always forget that song "Hate Me" is really good, except the chorus is so dumb. It's because it's that whole like, I don't give a fuck if you hate me, and I'm like, all right, like, are you 13? Like, it's like, that's I don't know.
He might have been when he wrote it,
maybe, but I think that was on Follow the Reaper, so that was like
right. But sometimes like maybe the rest of the band was like, this isn't really a great song, and it wasn't until Follow the Reaper
we'll add more cool parts to
it. When they were like, all right, we need another song on here.
Right.
All right, fuck it,
because like it has cool parts in it, and I always forgot, and I was like. So I kept thinking of it as one of the songs I didn't like, but then at the beginning of it, they were playing it, and I was like, I don't remember which one this is, but I think it's on Follow the Reaper, and I like it. And then I was like, oh, this is that stupid song.
Yeah.
But like, there's cool parts in it, so it's kind of like one of those bands that was like never like, like I didn't expect them to do anything super amazing. Although I was surprised how quickly they decided to stop doing anything cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was just like, they're fun, and it was. I was glad I had never seen them before, because this is all I would have wanted out of seeing them.
Yeah, so a couple hilarious points on that. So we met up at the show with our friend Emmanuel, who's seen them 10 times.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's a literal 10. It sounded like a literal 10.
It
sounded like a literal 10. And he was like, yeah, I keep going to see them, basically waiting for this set list. He's like, and then he got it. So he seemed to be stoked. Everyone I've talked to that went to other shows said it was awesome, but like on that tip, like when I posted about it, a couple people were like, wait, just the show or the whole tour? And I was like, the whole tour. And then they were like, oh, if I'd known that, I would have gone.
Yeah,
I don't know how this was promoted, and I actually don't remember how I heard about it. Well, I just remember that when I heard about it, I was like, hey, we should go to this.
Right. I remember hearing about it as some announcement, like maybe it was on Blabbermouth or something, and it was just like they said their next tour they're only going to play stuff from Hate Crew and earlier, and I was like, awesome. And so when it was announced, we were like, let's go to this. But the actual tickets and stuff, I think it might have just said like Down and Dirty 20 years or something, which is, again, I'm like, Down and Dirty does not, like, it's not where, like, again, because maybe it's this weird, like, they started off very much, death metal. It was all like Follow the Reaper. It was all, there's a song called Every Time I Die, and it doesn't make any fucking sense, but it's just generic death metal shit where it's like, it's death, and it's like, he keeps dying, and it's like, it's fucking brutal, man. Like, whatever, dude. Plus he's Finnish, so like the English is like the furthest from making sense of any of like the European languages. And so it's like, all right, whatever. But you got cool guitar parts, and that's cool.
I don't know how they promoted the thing,
But yeah. So yeah, I don't think they like I said, literally should have been something directly indicative of we're playing our old stuff.
right, because like again, like when you just say it's an anniversary tour, like that doesn't signal that you're gonna do anything
Right.
like
It just
that.
means you're like, we're great. What maybe
We've been
you're
around
like
forever.
And it's funny because we only did our best stuff recently, which is what we're playing. It's like, wait, no.
my expectation if someone's having an anniversary tour, it's we won a tour but we didn't put out an album. Like
Right.
that's my expectation.
Right.
Is like we're just touring because we think we're gonna make money, but we didn't put. Oh, speaking of making money, admittedly, the show was the day after Thanksgiving, right, in New York.
Oh, yeah.
So there's
Black
two
Friday.
things happen.
Black Friday. It's super metal. Everyone should have been.
I completely
Black
forgot about that.
Friday.
Yeah, that is appropriate for a death metal show. So that's a hard day because a lot of people who live in New York are from somewhere else, right? So you go travel to your family, and then all the people who are like, oh, let's go to New York for the holiday, probably aren't going to be like, by the way, gonna go to this death metal show.
Yeah.
So this was actually the fewest number of people I'd ever seen in PlayStation, and so there were two things about it that were sort of comical. One, if you've never been in that place, there's like a lower floor, and then there's like a mezzanine, and then there's two like VIP balconies, and then a bunch of seats in the back. The seats in the back were completely draped off, so the entire back half of the venue was empty. We were standing on the mezzanine because it's raised above, so it's way easier to see everything going on. But usually it's like packed right there. Like it was not like there were two rows of people, and then there was one dude in the VIP balcony, a single guy. And I posted a video of him on Instagram because he was like rocking out by himself. It was entertaining. So that was weird. So I don't know. Hopefully they made money on this tour, and hopefully that was just a weird night. And
Yeah.
I think they did because Yana Instagrammed she was at the Worcester, Massachusetts, the Palladium, and she was on the floor, but like not up front. And when she filmed forward, there was a ton of people, and when she filmed selfie, there was a ton of people behind her. And the Palladium's like, I mean, I think it holds way more people than PlayStation Theater. So I think, but again, that was the show that I told you there's 8 bands on it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
might as well have been a festival.
Right.
This one only had 4. We skipped the local opener. Then the one band thought
Yeah.
it was still the 80s, like literally.
We should go through these. So who was the first one? Lost Society.
That was the first. That was
Yeah.
the one we saw.
That was the first one we saw. They were like kind of a thrash throwback.
They were like lost. They were like lost time, basically.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, they literally. It was 1987. Like,
Right.
and like,
Yeah.
they cosplayed 1987 really well.
Yeah.
They had the moves down. Like I took to they did that stuff where they're like, hey, let's play guitar real close to each other.
Yeah.
And like
And
hold our guitar.
vertically.
Yeah, vertically, right.
Yeah.
And just like, I mean, they had the shtick totally down, but it was just like you're on a nostalgia tour as a nostalgia act, but like of a time period. Like you're not a act that anyone has nostalgia for.
Right.
You're cosplaying a time period. A lot of these people have nostalgia for. Yeah, but I mean, like they did their thing.
Yeah.
2 songs was an appropriate amount. Like it was
Exactly.
like we got it. Yeah, and then I don't know.
Were
how
they
you
the ones that had that had everybody like crouch on the ground or some shit?
Oh yeah, I thought it was gonna be some like Colin Kaepernick shit, right? Like he goes. So during the last song, the singer's like, I can't do his like. He has like an
He has
80s
the
voice.
80s
He has an
thrash
80s voice, and he's like, I want everybody to take a knee, and I was like, oh, what is about to happen? This is gonna be weird.
I think he was just having them swear their allegiance to metal or something like that, but I didn't quite catch what he was saying.
No. So I caught the whole thing.
Okay.
It was like he wanted everyone to take a knee, so that he could then be like, all right, now jump up and mosh. It was like,
Right, but it like he didn't articulate that well. It was like, get up, take a knee, and now like some other shit, and then all right, here we go. What? And then
I was actually very surprised.
Yeah.
I thought that thing was gonna crash and burn.
a lot of people participate. I was
No,
like,
that's what I'm
I was like,
saying.
you guys know this is dumb, right? You guys know you don't have to do what they say just because they're on
no
stage.
one on the mezzanine participated.
Yeah,
It was,
that's
but
true.
like
That's
almost
true.
everyone on the floor did.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought it was gonna be like 12 kids were gonna do it, but like
we saw a
everybody
lot of
did it.
special stuff going
Activities.
on the floor. we'll get to, which we'll get. Yeah.
Oh, we'll do it. We can talk about that now.
Well, which okay, so like
The sailor.
okay, so the sailor, yeah. So the one dude had a captain's hat on, but also like a patch vest. It was
Right. He was like total yacht metal.
Yeah, and he had really long hair. It was like
He was really tall, too.
Picture of yacht metal. Yeah,
So-
so yeah, you
so
couldn't miss him.
you-
I took a
right,
bunch
you-
of videos
right.
and pictures because also the light would like reflect off
Of
his, white hat.
amongst the sea of black t-shirts.
Yes.
So yeah, there was the yacht metal guy. There was the dude in the pit who tried to rip his wife beater off Hulk Hogan style. So I Instagrammed it. Like he'd been trying to do it for like a minute, and it was like between songs, so the pit wasn't going, and he like kept trying to do it and he couldn't do it. And then thankfully by the time I got my phone out, he was still trying to do it. And then the song starts, and then the pit starts up again. At which point he then abandons his quest, and he never did succeed in ripping his wife beater. But he's like, and then the dude who was like in the pit, but again when it was not like a super fast heavy part, and he's like air guitaring along, and you're just like, what? Like, I don't think anyone cares. But he was wearing Dark Souls 3 shirt, so I was like, all right, you're cool. Who else? Those are the only characters I remember. Oh, the person with the doll.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Like, I don't even remember which song it was. Somebody held up this thing, which from behind just looked like a doll. They held it up for like a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Again, I Instagrammed this, and I got a response like, "Are you sure it's not just a folded up jacket?" And I was like, "But if it was, why would you like hold it up to Alexi for like 3 minutes?" I'm assuming if we'd seen the front of it,
Right.
there probably would have been something that
I'm sure
like,
they have some
explained
weird
it.
merch. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, because I remember there's a period where like Alexi got a lot of traction as like cool Guitar Hero guy.
Oh, yeah.
Although immediately I was like, are people serious about this though? Because like again, it was right when they got less good.
But he was also the heartthrob.
Right,
Because
well, like, or at least he thought he was. I couldn't tell if like people bought it or not. Because
No, I'm pretty sure people did.
Okay.
Because it was one of those deals. It was like, what was the dude from Sonata Arctica? I knew like
Tony Kako.
No, I don't remember who's in that band. But if you
I
said
only know
his
the
name,
singer.
if you said his name, I'm pretty sure it was the guitar player.
I don't know.
I totally can't remember his name, but I knew a bunch of girls who were way into that guy. And then Alexi became like the metal heartthrob dude,
Right.
and bizarrely, also like guitar, like he has, I don't know if they still make it, but he was playing it, his ESP
he has
signature model,
several
which is
ESP
like
models.
Do they still make them?
Yeah.
It's just, so the only one I know is that one with the Rhodes.
I don't know if they make-
Rhodes V with the like the racing stripe.
Right. Well, I set up one we had at Sam Ash the other day, which is like it's a white Rhodes V with the Reaper sickles for inlays.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw your Instagram, but I didn't notice
Yeah,
the inlays. Okay.
The inlays weren't super obvious in the picture. But.
Okay. Yeah, but so whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so then do we want to talk about the next band?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so then after the thrash band, the house music was a low rumble.
For like the entire break, and that must have been their fault. They must have been like, you got to play our low
That's-
rumble
right,
intro.
that was the thing. So the next band is a spooky black metal band.
Spooky black metal.
Very spooky band. This band is haunted, actually. I want people.
Oh, yeah,
but it's not the haunted.
Right.
So it was.
They just are haunted.
I don't know how you say it. Karak Angan.
Yeah, Karak Angren, I guess. Yeah, something like that.
I don't. Is there an R? Maybe it is Angren. I'm like it's. I
Yeah.
just don't even know how to say their name.
I think so.
But they can't. So they had the low rumble, which played through their sound check. Like the dude comes out to play the snare over the low rumble.
It was
I
so
was
bad.
like,
it was really loud too. It was really like annoying. and-
I kept my plugs in the whole time. So I had 2 predictions. Only one of them was correct. One, that they would sound terrible. 2, that their set would be plagued with technical difficulties because they did that. They did sound terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know their songs, but they didn't seem to have technical difficulties. They certainly didn't with their stage props. So the keyboardist came out in his necromancer band leader outfit. Right?
Yeah.
It was like imagine a band leader, but like the outfit's black and has red tassels and then corpse paint. And he kept doing this stuff where I didn't post these. I took video of it, but I didn't post any of it.
Of his stand?
He had the keyboard stand, and it was so goofy. It looked like something out of the Munsters.
Yeah.
Or the Addams Family.
Yeah, because it had like a skull on it.
Yeah, and so it like had a mind of its own, and it would move around. But then he did the thing where he kept walking around it. He would play. He played with one hand.
Yeah.
So he's only playing the one side, and he would like play the chord, and very, noticeably do this, and then like walk to the side. It was like Thriller, dude. It was like he was doing the Thriller dance, playing the keyboard, and then the guitar tone was terrible, and then their songs were terrible. And then do you remember the Ghost?
Yeah. So
why they
there's
were
like
haunted?
there was like this hologram. Like it was so initially when the stage was kind of dark, you couldn't tell if it was maybe just like a. You could see the frame, right? You could like the outline of like a either a backdrop thing or like a banner.
But it was
or whatever.
projected onto the guitar cabinet.
Well, no, but it was just projected within that frame basically. But it was like a hologram, and they had 2 different images on it. First was just like some creepy little girl or something, which right before they started, they just projected that. And then it just went away and they started. And it's like, oh, no context. Is this related? And then later on, there was one that was just some like old lady ghost thing.
The ghost like came out of the thing.
But like, it was weird because I almost thought like, okay, well, like, but is this going to be part of your like King Diamond-esque narrative or something? Because they had a lot of narrative in their songs because he kept like just sort of storytelling. There's parts of the songs where just be like, but like not like. If not to where it seemed like there could have been more music happening.
Yeah.
But instead it was like they took a break so he could tell you a story, but it's not totally silent. There's still like the key, but like he would just be like,
That was
like
to
tell
let you know
that
that it was spooky.
Right.
That's
so
why, again, they
spooky.
were a very spooky band.
But my point being like, it could have been spooky, but still sound like the music is going, but they weren't that good.
They could have also just like not played, and my night would have been better.
That's true. Well, that's right. Right. Anyway, so
they could have gotten day jobs, and we all would have been much happier. They're very spooky. But also, that ghost, it was very like 1990s WWF quality. Like that was my feeling. It was like.
Well, yeah, they probably got it on sale. It was leftover holograms
from like the haunted house at Six Flags.
From like a yeah.
It's like that thing where like they're like Six Flags opens back up for one weekend, so you can come get spooky.
Or it's like the clearance sale from the previous year's haunted house or whatever.
Or like one of the guys works there, and so since it's off season, so he just took it on tour with him.
Yeah.
It was bad. They were bad. But whatever.
But it was weird.
Oh, and they had no low end. So the low end rumble was a stark contrast to their no bass player,
like we expected
fuzz tone guitar.
We expected the the black metal like all
buzzsaw,
high buzzsaw guitar tone, but like there was no bass player, and then the keyboard player was very, shall we say, minimalist. But it was probably
well. The other thing is he had a string. He played most of the time on like that spooky string patch.
Yeah,
that the attack wasn't
spooky
fast enough on. So it was kind of like he was like a quarter of a beat behind.
Oh yeah,
because it's like he would hit the keys at the right time, but then the sound doesn't come in.
Yeah.
And you're like, bro, you got to get a different patch when you play live, or like play with a click that's a quarter ahead, and so like you line up. They were bad.
Yeah,
that was
real bad.
It was comedy though.
Yeah,
but it made Children Bodom look real great. It was a real easy act to follow.
Yeah, that is true.
I'll give them that. They didn't upstage anyone,
except maybe. Well, at least it was more interesting to watch than 80s dudes. But I mean, it wasn't.
The music was worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was their comedy act their unintentional comedy act. Well, maybe it wasn't. I don't know that. Maybe it was intentionally like spooky.
I mean, it was
goofy.
intentionally spooky, but I don't think they thought it was goofy. I don't think most black metal bands are aware of how they're perceived. I think they think they're scary to people who aren't into black metal, but really people who aren't into black metal are like,
No, but I feel like there are other bands, there are other black metal bands that have like way too much theatrics. Like 1349, another band that I saw at PlayStation Theater, and they came out, and I was like, this is theater. Like this is not music. This is theater. Right. Like their music was at least like way more sort of like intimidating, like it or ferocious, or however you want to think about it. It was less like goofy, like Adam's Monsters, TV goofy spooky. Like
it's like they took the worst parts of King Diamond.
Oh yeah, totally.
None of the good stuff.
Yeah.
Just the like when he decides to tell you a story in his spooky voice. And you're like, all right, whatever, man. Let's get back to the rocket.
That's accurate. Or no, or just,
not rocket.
Just hurry up and finish.
Exactly.
So there's that. I think that's it for that show.
Yeah, pretty much. So by contrast, we saw another anniversary.
It was a 25th anniversary.
25th anniversary. Images and Words and Beyond. And they really went beyond with it. So, oh man, I was so like, I'm not saying to say I was excited, but I was at least expecting to like a certain bar of like acceptable performance.
How many times have you seen Dream Theater?
I do not know, and it would be tricky to count because I've seen them a lot.
Oh, I've seen them exactly one time because I went to see Fate's Warning, and they were also on the bill. It was in Boston. So it would have been like 2003 somewhere. It was somewhere between 2002 and 2005. I don't remember. It was an outdoor show. They were really boring because like they stared at their stuff and played. Yeah, but they were not the train wreck.
No,
like
so here's the thing.
Set list was better.
They were, them and Symphony X until the last show of each were in the same boat. No matter how much I wasn't into their new stuff, they played enough old stuff and they played it well enough that I was usually happy to go see them and enjoyed it. Symphony X last time only played Of Sins and Shadows, and everything else, in my opinion, fits under new stuff, and in other words, stuff I don't give a shit about. And neither did the audience, because that audience was bored as shit for that show.
But a bunch of people were singing along to those crappy choruses.
Right. Well, there was a handful, but there was a lot of like, this is kind of cool. But then Of Sins and Shadows came on, and everyone was like, oh yeah, they used to be awesome, and it's like,
also that audience is skewed because a lot of those people were their friends from Jersey.
Oh, that's true.
Because it was like the hometown show. Yeah. So
anyway,
may have been significantly lower at other dates.
So, but that was really just, I mean, okay, so like Russ doesn't really nail the high vocal stuff anymore.
Well, he has a completely different vocal approach.
Right.
But so does James, actually, too.
Right.
They both, at some, like, Russ decided he wanted to be Dio and failed miserably. And Dream Theater decided they wanted to be Metallica and failed miserably.
But, I've been, I mean, the list of bands that I've been into who were inevitably going to disappoint me vocally is like all my favorite bands, because they just do stuff where it's like, you're not going to be able to sustain that for the rest of your life, especially when you drink and smoke all the time, which several of them do or did. But I can ignore that, and Symphony X has still always performed well, and that show they did is just that they performed dumb songs. So I figured with Dream Theater, it would be the same thing, where it was like, so like I'll give you an example. The last time I saw Dream Theater, I did not go to see The Astonishing because I was like, I couldn't even sit through it. Like, I'm sure there'll be some goofy shit, but like, hopefully they'll make a DVD of it that I can like see and laugh at remotely.
Watch at your own pace.
Right.
And take a break as necessary.
Exactly. But so I didn't do that. But the tour before that, their self-titled album.
Wait, they had a self-titled as like their 12th album or something?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I missed. This is how out of the loop I am.
It was the first. I think it was the second one with Mangini on it.
Okay.
Or maybe third. But either way, it was okay. It was same shit. But they played like I think half or like maybe 2/3 of Awake on that tour because it was an approximate anniversary. So one half of the set had a lot of old stuff and a bunch of Awake, and so that was pretty awesome. And all those songs came across pretty well, and it was a good show. And it was like, yep, I'm gonna keep seeing. Cause that's why I keep going to see them, because every time I see them, there's like, you know, even if they have enough stuff that's like either I like or close enough that like I always go to see them. But this time I was like, okay, this one's gotta be good. Images and Words, easy.
And I looked up the set list and knew they were gonna play Change of Seasons too.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Okay, yeah, but, I knew that, and so
nice.
Right, I was looking forward to.
But I kind of figured
half of Images and Words and all of Change of Seasons.
I didn't know it, but like I half guessed it anyway, because they've done that so many times where it's like, not only are we gonna play all of Scenes from a Memory, but the encore is a Change of Seasons, and like, oh my god. And then like a few years later, not only are we gonna play half of this album, but also like it's like to the point where it's like it's almost a prog band thing now, where it's like, it used to be like, oh my god, I can't believe the encore is going to be this really long song. Nobody else would do that because in a different market, because everyone would leave. But it's a prog show, and so but now we've gotten like long enough into prog where it's like, yeah, they're going to play the really long song as the encore,
yeah,
obviously. And because you guys don't have anywhere to go.
The other reason I was optimistic about this show was because Nick had told me that he saw them in San Francisco or Oakland, wherever they played, and he's like, it's awesome. And then he was in town, and so he went to the New York show as well. Like, he just saw the show and was stoked enough about it to not only be like, it wasn't bad, but to then spend money and see it again. So I was like, okay, great. And then the show happened.
Well, and to be fair, almost everyone there seemed to be really
Way
stoked about
into
it too.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
man.
whoa. Well, and like we were in like the upper balcony, and there's a dude in our row who like stood the entire show and was like super into it.
Well,
and then
the
another
guy
dude in the
across
aisle who was like rocking out.
But the thing is, he rocked out like by the middle of the show. He then sat down. He was rocking out like so hard, and I think he was also like super drunk.
Yeah.
So I think
he just ran out of gas. Probably
either he ran out of gas or he got too drunk and was like, I need to sit down. It was one of the two.
He was like, Images and Words, and he blacks out before Images and Words.
Yeah, so that was interesting. Oh, side note, this is the only show I've ever felt old at. Because like whenever I go to a show and it's like all kids, like I remember when I saw Mars Volta and I was like the oldest person there, but that just made me be like, okay, I'm not like out of touch. But then I went to this show and everyone was old, and I was like, oh shit, I must be old. Only old people are at this show.
Well, okay, and maybe so, and that's what my like for the same reason I was questioning my response to their performance at first, because initially I was like, they sound old as fuck. Like, is it just me, or am I just trying to like tell myself like, these dudes are fucking old, unlike me? Like, I don't know, but I kept like,
but Meshuggah is super old.
Right,
they're
true,
50.
True, yeah.
But you don't notice it.
But they don't sound fucking
right,
old.
That's what I'm saying.
No, but and I do think I stand by my instinct, because all right, the first set we just expected to be garbage. Okay, so
which I missed half of, and I do not regret.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you missed it. They played some newish. Okay, so like they did one song off Train of Thought, and then like something from from the self-titled. It was, you know,
they played As I Am.
They played that's one from Train of Thought, right?
Part.
And then they put in Enter Sandman into it. Yeah, we get it. That's what you stole it from. We know. Like, but then they did To Live Forever, which is like a Images and Words era song that was a B-side. It didn't make it onto an album, but it went around in like the fan club stuff or whatever, and so everyone's heard it on the internet. But when they played it, I was like, oh, is this supposed to be ironic? Like, because they're obviously not going to live forever because they sound old.
Because it is over.
They wrote this song when they were very young. They are now...
1 foot in the grave.
Yeah, so they were like, let's play that song. It'll be funny. Because we're clearly so fucking old.
Well, speaking of it'll be funny, I literally, like, thought they were trolling us. Like, no, like James was so bad.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
Because
he's done that before.
So
That's
it
like
seemed, but though it seemed it was like one of these deals where they were like, we know you're here just to hear us play all the notes. So like, what if we just like had the worst vocals possible? like it really felt like they were trolling us.
Yeah.
But then it went on too long. And then I was like, no, he's just
that's just like
sing.
his style is to sound like he's so this is why like I posted about this because a lot of people like it's one thing if you do or don't like James LeBrie's voice and like say how he sounds on the albums, right? So if people don't like him, fine, or if they do like him, fine. But when he's bad live, it's frequently not just that he misses a note or two or that he doesn't sing a high note, but it's like he makes these ridiculously overcompensating performance decisions that are way worse than just like adjusting a note down.
Right, and he's also someone who already hams it up.
Right.
Like the obscene phone caller bit on Awake, you know, where you're just like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why did you? Who let you do this? Where was the producer? Right? Like,
When they started. I think that's when they started self-producing.
Really? He's known for bad decisions.
Yeah.
And then he's just unleashed.
Yeah.
Which you really should tell the story about JP's mix.
Oh yeah. Okay, so here's my other theories about James LeBrie's performance. So, like I said, I first saw Dream Theater in I think '97. They were touring with Falling Into Infinity, and they were the opener for ELP and Deep Purple. So I saw them in this big amphitheater where no one was there to see Dream Theater, and so like almost everybody was sitting down for almost all of their set, except at the end when they played Pull Me Under, and like 4 people stood up like, yeah, pull me under, and I was one of them, and then I was like, oh fuck, and I sat the fuck back down because I was like, just that, although to be fair, like there was a lot of, it was, you know, Deep Purple and ELP are like old, so it was an old audience.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm here for the cool young band, young-ish. I mean,
Well, back then,
well, yeah, they were still pretty young at that point. I'm
pretty
over the
sure
years,
they were on MTV for something off Falling Into Infinity. I know they were Lie was on MTV.
yeah,
Off Awake. I feel like something from Falling Into Infinity was, but
yeah, briefly, probably,
yeah.
But my point is, they over the years, James has had good shows, and he's had good periods and bad periods. I mean, I think he's always just been inconsistent. But I know there was a period after Falling Into Infinity, and they talked about it a while later. But there was a period where they seriously were like, I don't know about this guy, and they seriously considered replacing him. And I also know he had some medical issues at some point that supposedly affected his voice. And so either because of one or both of those, at some point he like got some coaching and, you know, took some measures. And I think as a result, he had a few years where he was pretty decent on tour and he didn't do too much ridiculous, annoying crap. But I think over the years, what's happened is Dream Theater really, in terms of their career, in the way I think their audience grew, because it grew so gradually with just like, you know, the internet and like the internet prog scene kind of thing, and like just people telling people, oh, you heard this band Dream Theater?
Well,
And
that's
it's
the
like,
thing. I feel like if anyone ever expressed that they were into anything remotely technical, the first recommendation anyone would give them would be like, oh, you got to hear Dream Theater.
Right.
And then they've just been at it so consistently for so long. When I say consistently, I mean in terms of putting things out, not
Right.
the quality of the output.
right. And
They just, right. It's just like
Right.
snowballed.
So basically, at some point within the last decade, I realized like, oh shit, you know, Dream Theater is set. Like they're making money and their albums are boring as shit, but like people don't know that because they are getting into them now. And if you get into something late, if the worst thing they're doing is that it's a less inspired version of the shit that they're popular for, it's gonna work because people are gonna like
Right,
"Oh, I
because
actually
you don't
like
have
that
a point of comparison. If you've never heard anyone play string skipping that fast, and you're into fast string skipping,
Yeah.
you would be like, "Whoa,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
awesome!"
So
like the rest of us heard it in the '90s, but if you're just hearing it now for the first time, you probably think it's a really cool.
yeah, so I think parallel to that, once they got over that, are we going to stick with James thing? They're just like that's our singer. That's the singer for Dream Theater until who knows, and
Until we come up with a reason to film a documentary about choosing a new singer.
right. Which also like I think it would be almost worse than replacing Jeff Tate because even if it gave you the opportunity to do something new, which is exactly why I think they would consider, because there was plenty of times where I think people who were into metal a lot, but like Dream Theater were kind of like, James just isn't very metal sounding, and so they're always like, oh man, if Dream Theater ever had like a fucking more aggressive metal kind of vocalist, that would be cool, but they'd have to get someone who could do that and also be able to do James's old stuff.
Could you think Ripper could do it?
I don't know.
They should just get Ripper.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, he's got some range.
I'd give that a shot.
Yeah.
If Dream Theater toured with
I don't
Ripper,
think he could be more annoying.
I would go.
Yeah, I would totally go to that. I mean, who knows? Maybe I don't know. But anyway, so I think at some
But to your point, there are a million singers who are Jeff Tate clones.
right,
There are zero James LaBrie
exactly,
clones.
and I think, well, that's probably because Queensryche had a much bigger mainstream moment.
Well, also because Jeff Tate sounds great.
Right. Well, that's true. That's true. And he made good, as his voice deteriorated due to his own poor maintenance decisions. He made good choices, at least.
Which is surprising because he's made so many bad choices, like
fashion-wise?
fashion-wise, repertoire-wise. Do we need? For those of you who have not heard me talk about this before, there's a video of Jeff Tate singing Lola on local Seattle television, and I'm not talking about like as a 16-year-old. I'm talking about like recently.
In a really conspicuous
His
wig.
wig. Yeah. Go watch this. You
Yeah.
like
well,
this,
I can't recommend
and
watching.
then I definitely can. You know what show this is. And then the whole bit about pulling a knife on the rest of the band in South America. Like, I mean, dude makes bad choices. Like, that is not up for debate. But for whatever reason, he was able to have some discretion when it came to on stage, whereas James LaBrie seems to be the exact opposite.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So James does that thing, and Jeff would occasionally do this, but he did it better. Where because they know they're not going to do the one high note, they sing other notes higher for some reason. Like that's making up for it, but then like
The average.
right, the average of, but
The
it's like
average
that. I
pitch.
feel like that gives away the mistake, which is like it's so important that you sing high notes or whatever, and it's like, well, singing other high notes doesn't like make up for the one that was like
Right.
compositionally effective.
Well, right. And so for people who don't know, when you're writing a vocal line, you're only supposed to be one high note. There's supposed to be one. If you're gonna have a line that goes up, there should be a note that is higher than all the other notes that only gets sung once.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even talking about like dog whistle range. I'm talking about like if you're writing a classical aria and it sits nicely in the singer's range, there is one note that is supposed to be the high note, and it does not need to be loud or long. It just needs to be the highest and not repeated. Yeah. So right. So
Yeah.
like putting more in the neighborhood, right? Like completely undoes
Yeah.
everything that you're trying to do.
And so he'll not only do that, but then he also like, I think he already has some sort of breath control issues based on, I think, whoever his teacher was like way back in the day. Cause I remember,
You think you had a teacher?
he had training. And I remember
Are you
reading.
talking about his makeup training, or are you talking about like he?
No, I mean like his whatever he
okay.
studied before, like pre-Winter
wow.
Rose.
That's
Because I remember an interview like way back where he talked about some weird technique, which was, and this explains a lot, which is his teacher told him, and I don't know if it was like some, lesser known technique school of like, I don't even know if an opera that he was doing or if it was just a random vocal teacher who taught him this shit, but they were like, you open your your mouth like an alligator. So like, or like, like a Canadian in South Park, or like that sort of thing. Like, so I think that's why he goes like that. Like he goes like, ah, and like opens his mouth. And then I mean,
he's also Canadian.
Right. Well, exactly. Yeah. So he had a Canadian teacher. They taught him to sing like a Canadian. And like, he explained that, I don't know if he like actually, if they told him to stick his tongue out, or if he just thinks that's part of like trying to open your mouth as wide as you can.
Or maybe that's super rock and roll. It's like Gene Simmons and
he does not do it in a rock and roll way at all.
But maybe he thinks it's rock and roll.
It also, like, he doesn't seem to realize that it makes a certain sound when you go, bah! Like, that's the sound it makes. And that's what he does all the time. But also he explained like why he used to, like, he doesn't do it anymore since they got in-ears, but he used to always put his hand up like this in front of his face, and it looked like he was reading the lyrics. But it was really that he was
them on his hand.
Yeah, it looked like that. But he said it was that it would bounce the sound off his hand back at him so he could hear it. Like, instead of putting your finger in your ear, he would do this. But I like never seen anyone else do that, and it looked so dumb.
Yeah, well, because I'm pretty sure at stage volume it wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't. So I think he has some weird, dumb teaching that is like he can't shake it because he keeps doing the same dumb stuff that, like, it sounds like he's using either too much air or just like not keeping his vocal cords tight or something. It's weird. It's some weird shit he does, but it sounds terrible, and he's doing it more than ever. And like you were saying, it doesn't seem like he even totally seems to think he's doing bad things. He's kind of just like leaning into it.
Oh yeah, he did not look embarrassed to be up there.
Yeah.
And I have a picture of him from after the show, and he certainly wasn't like feeling down after tonight's train wreck.
So the final part of my theory, Music Wars, is that oh yeah, I forgot. So this is the final piece of the puzzle. Is I saw this.
You put the puzzle together.
We put the puzzle together. I watched a recent rig rundown for Dream Theater. Although my interest in them is like diminished because like I know what all your guitars look like, and like it's just going to be shuffling the Mesa
I have
Boogie.
an Axe Effects. So.
I have an Axe Effects, which which he only even uses for effect. Well, he may use it for some other stuff. Although
right, but it's like I don't care what amp anyone is playing because I'm going to play an Axe Effects.
Exactly. And I didn't. I feel like I also. And this could have been the room. Since it was the Beacon, but it sounded like his whole like he probably had like a wet, dry, wet kind of thing going, and it was like too much sometimes. Sometimes it seemed like it lost the impact because it was like I need to sound like my guitars are everywhere. Like inside your head.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought he sounded for a live guitar tone though. I thought it was really good.
It was all right. I mean, it had moments, but like there's just moments where I felt like he overprocessed it.
Oh, probably. But I mean, listen to "Pull Me Under." It's like I can't remember who. Javier told me about some interview he read like a super long time ago, and it was like. I feel like it was Morrissey or somebody, but I feel like that's also wrong. But someone in a sad band, and they played him like a bunch of different music and asked him like what's your reaction? And when they played "Pull Me Under," and he goes, "Sounds like when this dude plays a note, like 12 things light up in a rack." And that's highly accurate because it was like that back then. He had those lexicons and like the Bradshaw switcher into like 3 amps and all this
like
other
2290s and shit.
Oh yeah, 2290s,
huge rack.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, as you're saying,
so they were talking about their in-ear monitors and his monitor mix, and he was like, "Well, it's funny. My monitor mix is basically just like you would mix the album, right? I would just have it, mixed like so I can hear kind of just enough of everything, and it sounds good, except for vocals, no vocals." So I was like, wait a minute, I was like, that's cheating because you don't have to hear him. Your paying customers do, but you don't have to fucking hear that shit. Fuck you, fire him. Like, you think? I mean, like some people would. So first of all, speaking of being paying customers, we paid an exorbitant amount for the show. Yes,
it was more than double the price of the Children of Bodom show, which was infinitely better show.
Yeah.
But I would pay more money if I knew James wasn't gonna sing. So
Yeah.
so maybe Dream Theater and Periphery could do a no vocals tour. I would definitely pay to see that.
That would be an amazing tour. I would definitely go to that tour.
I would pay. I would be like, take my money. I would tell other people to go too. I'd be like, do you like really kind of like weird technical metal stuff, but like you just can't stand the vocals? This is the show for you.
This is the show for
Come
you.
to this show. It will be great. But yeah, no, the weird thing was though, so they played, despite it being Images and Words and Beyond, it was structured as Beyond and Images and Words.
Right.
So I missed part of the Beyond, and then up through, so they played Images and Words in order though. I felt like James got slightly less worse around Metropolis. And I don't know if that's because he got a break, right? Because there's like a lot of time during that song where you don't sing.
Yeah.
But then it went from being like trollingly bad to just not good.
Right. So my the Petrucci monitor mix thing basically means that I think after the sort of period where he was kind of his role was in question, then they kind of just accepted, he's our guy, whatever, and fuck you if you don't like it. And
they're like still selling tickets.
Yeah, exactly.
Which again, this show also did not sell out, by the way.
Yeah,
but
yeah. So I think, and then if that's Petrucci's reaction to it is just take him out, just take him out of my mix. I don't need to hear it. Then maybe that means nobody is criticizing him ever now. Instead of kind of being like, hey, what was it with the, they're just like, he probably has his own, they probably don't hang out with him that much. Got his own dressing room.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they'd be like, hey, James, you're a real big star. You want your own dressing room? No, yeah, after the show, they're just like, James, how'd you do out there tonight? Since none of us know.
Right? It's like, how'd you feel about it? And like, oh, guys thought it did really good. It's like, good for you, James. Good for you.
Crowd was into it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So, yeah, I think they're just like, do whatever. And so he's like, yeah. And he's just marching around there making horrible sounds. And everyone's just like, whatever. And then the audience is like, they know. There's no surprises. Everybody knows. So the first set, I think there was some extra solo stuff thrown in, because I feel like they added the extra solos in Images and Words, but I feel like there was extra solos in the first set too.
I think you're right. So I don't know any of those songs, so I can't comment. But from comments from other people, seem to imply
there was
that,
multiple
they did do
like
that.
nondescript soloing that was just like, here's a solo, like literally not like this is a piece of music.
Yeah.
Here's a solo, and so the most noticeable one in the first set was John Myung. Basically, he didn't do an extra extended solo in Images and Words, but he did. He played a Jocko piece in the first set, which is supposed to be his tribute to Jocko. But I mean it. I don't know. He started playing, and then I just kind of
missed that.
Dozed off.
Like I think that happened before I showed up.
I think that was like right before you showed up.
Okay.
And but it wasn't that interesting, and it wasn't that crazy, and like I'm not like a huge fan of this or anything, but at least when I've heard Jaco Pastorius, like it sounds interesting, and so this was like not interesting, but like there's a lot of notes or whatever, and like
also he has frets on his bass,
right?
So
Anyway, so then you get to the Images and Words, and the first set like was newer stuff and whatever. So I was like, I don't know, maybe they sound old, maybe I just don't like the songs. Second set starts, and Images and Words through I think Take the Time, whatever's before Metropolis, everything sounded slow and unenthusiastic, but slow. Like I couldn't tell if it was either that like Portnoy would rush, and so Mangini is so consistent that it's like it's boring, or that combined with them playing him like at album tempo, because sometimes certain songs just always get sped up a little live, and it sounds fine on the album, but live if they play it at album speed, it sounds like slow. And so so those were kind of my theories. But then around Metropolis, it sounded okay, and Metropolis, they're probably playing to a click is probably part of it. And For some reason, though, it sounded okay on Metropolis, and from then on, it was okay. Like from Metropolis on, I enjoyed and things sounded okay. But like the first third of that album, it was just like, what the fuck? And also like I don't know if it was tuned. It might have been tuned down as well.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they
probably
were
was
tuned down. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
My perfect
so
pitch is
that
broken.
would also tuned down plus slowed down equals you sound old as fuck. And I think that might have been what was going on. But
yeah, bizarrely to the solo point, during Images and Words, everyone had a random egregious solo section except John Young. And there was a point where it was clearly like, oh, this is gonna be his. Then he's like, nope, just go back to playing the album.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's see. So during Another Day, when there's a saxophone solo, and Jordan Rudess has a C-board, which is, I believe, the best controller, short of like a saxophone-style breath controller, for controlling horn samples, and he did not use it for that solo. And he just used some synth sound, and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "It's right there. It's right behind you. You just go." It's like, but it was
right behind his spinning keyboard.
Right behind his spinning, which is funny because you compare it to the black metal guys. His moved in a lot weirder ways, but he also played very little on it, and also he had a really light, cheap keyboard.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Rudess is like this industrial thing,
workstation,
you expect it to have like like it could deploy defenses or something,
or like take off at any moment.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But it can't be a space thing because he's a wizard. It has to be magic. Because that's his thing.
No, totally. That wizard beard, his wizard beard would not fit in a space suit. Like,
yeah, that wouldn't work. So, but what was funny was the guy we were hanging out with, Emmanuel, talked to him after the show, and he said he had the same kind of thought. He didn't see him use the C-board, and so he asked him, and I'd heard other people online say he used it at other shows, and so he asked him, he was like, "Do you ever use that C-board?" And he was like, "What do you mean? Yeah, I use it for the sax solo on Another Day." And I was like, I wish I had been there, because I would have been like, "Why are you lying to me, Jordan? I was there. It just happened. You didn't use it. I was waiting for it." Fuck you, Jordan. Lie to your fans like that. But yeah, I guess like he just didn't, or maybe it wasn't supposed to be like 10 feet away from him.
Yeah, maybe his keyboard was spun in the wrong direction, and he panicked and was just like, "Well, I'm just gonna play the sax here because I don't have time to get over to the C-board."
Yeah, I don't know, but I was like, what?
Or maybe he just likes gaslighting people. Like maybe
he just likes to put it there so that people ask him about it, and he's like, "What do you mean? I used it on that solo."
And that's how he gets his endorsement money.
Yeah,
I wonder how much money they make off their endorsements, because they all have them.
Well, he especially, like, I mean, he's like,
Synth Gear cannot come out without Jordan Rudess
and
demoing it.
He gets like, I think, like Rolly, they gave him a title. Like he has he may be on their payroll.
Innovation Wizard.
Like just for like as a consultant basically, and that he does demos. And so I think he probably gets like serious money for some of that. And he has like his own app and stuff, which. Anything he plays on the iPad sounds the same. Yeah. And I'm so sick of it because I'm not convinced it's that cool. And I don't know if it was a Photoshop, but did you see the image of him with like, it looked like the body of his keytar, but it looked like it just had 2 or 3 iPads glued on it? I don't know if it was fake, but at first I was like, there's no way that's not real. I was like, that's totally real. He would do that bullshit and it's stupid. But I don't know. It might've just been a Photoshop. Because it was like several iPads, and I was like, oh no. But anyway, so he did not use that. And then on top of that, his solo was during around Wait for Sleep. He did like a piano solo, and in addition to that solo, he like overplayed Wait for Sleep. Right? He like added a bunch of notes, and there was a solo, like the actual solo. I don't know if it was Wait for Sleep or if it was like. If it was another song, but there was an actual solo that I remember it was very tasteful and melodic, and he fucked that up by adding like 500 more notes, just like extra runs of arpeggios, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, wasn't musicality a thing? Like, didn't you? I don't know.
not at the Dream Theater show. Has anyone who seen the 1 minute clip from my instructional video, musicality is the last thing you want.
Yeah. So let's see.
And I'm standing in front of a Dream Theater poster when I say that. That's the thing. I'm standing in front of a Dream Theater poster, and I'm like, it looks cool, and people have no idea what the fuck you're doing, and that's what's important because fuck musicality. I'm pretty sure that's what I say.
Yeah.
It's the last thing you want.
So let's see. So Mangini's solo was during Metropolis, where Portnoy would usually do one, and then John Petrucci's. He did this solo where like he sat down on one of his little monitors / footrests, and it started off with like, you know, just him playing pentatonic scales, like, and kind of slowly and like bluesy, but like there at no point did music happen.
Right. It wasn't like Luke. It wasn't like Luke busting it out.
No, it was so unmusical. I went to the bathroom and I could hear it the whole time, and I was like, still not missing anything. And by the time I came back, it had gotten really fast. And, I was there long enough to see him like stand up too. Like I caught that he started sitting down, and then he like stood up so that you knew that it was getting more intense.
Maybe he's seen that thrash band.
Yeah.
Lost Society.
Yeah.
He was like, yo, I saw this band. They did this really cool thing. They had the audience get down on one knee, and then they got up and moshed.
Yeah, so
it seems heavy.
That's how you know it was getting cooler. But yeah, it got, you know, faster and higher, and then it was just like, yeah, that was really
faster and
uninteresting.
higher. That sounds like an unreleased Winger song.
Yeah,
because they had higher and higher.
Yeah. So I think they just hit that point where like there's no remotely negative feedback coming in. And they're just like,
well, yeah, because like you said, you know what you're in for.
Yeah.
When you go to that show.
And I think that last tour, they probably played the entirety of The Astonishing and got the same positive feedback they always get, even though I think I even saw people post about it who were like, this is pretty lame. Some people liked it, but a lot of people didn't go because they were just like, I don't want to hear that, you know, and that's all they played. But I think they probably went and they were like, great job, guys, we did it again. And so like that stayed with them, and the being able to sort of just like not rock is like okay to them now. And that's what this show was. They're just like, oh, so it's cool if we just like, it's cool then? You don't need to rock, really? All right. Let's just phone this in from here on out. I don't know. So it was like aggressively disappointing Dream Theater show. With with, you know, very reasonable expectations out of Dream Theater at this point.
Yeah, and it was definitely highly overpriced. So that was unfortunate.
That too. I mean, I don't know if that has anything to do with the Beacon or something.
I don't know, but whatever.
Yeah,
it happened.
Yep.
Oh man. All right. So are we done talking about that train wreck?
Yeah, I think that covers it.
So I just want to mention one other thing from a other metal show I went to last week. So night before Thanksgiving, Neobla Viscaris played with, I think it's Allegion. It's spelled like Allegaon, right?
Oh yeah,
but it's, I think you're supposed to say Allegion. They played at Le Poisson Rouge, and like it was weird because it was not warm. It was colder that day than it is today. And standing outside and it's windy, and they've got us in this pen right waiting to let us in. And I didn't like show up right at doors or anything. Like I'm expecting like everyone should be in the show by now. I'm just going, so I'm like, what the hell's going on? And somebody in line asked security, and they're like, oh, the band requested that we search everyone. And we're like, okay. And so then they like made you empty out, like, you know, girls had purses, some people had backpacks, whatever.
Yeah.
They had to empty everything out, like, and just me. So I have at any given time at least 4 pockets worth of stuff, but usually 6 because I'm usually wearing a blazer with the 2 inside pockets. So I like have this stack, like it takes like 2 hands to hold all of my junk in my pockets. Which they then don't really go. They're just like, yeah, take it out, and it's like I feel like at this point it could be like plastic explosive, and it would be
Right.
fine as long as I took it out and set it on the table,
And then put it,
because they're like they never go through it, and
Yeah.
I'm always just like, okay, here's all my stuff, and then yeah, so that was like aggressive, and then so I'm down there watching Allegiant, and then our friend Anna shows up. And it was funny because she was like, what was with security? I was like, yeah, I heard like apparently the band requested it. And so then she Instagrammed, she was like, Allegiant after a very intimate pat down or something. Like it was something like that. It was,
Yeah.
And then, but then during Navel of Scaris, there was this one security dude who, I don't know if he was super high or just like really tired, because he kept, like, I kept looking at him and he was leaning on the wall and he has his eyes closed. But every time he'd open his eyes, he'd find somebody filming on their cell phone, and he'd go up to him and be like, don't film. And you're like, you do know that this is a metal show, like, at Le Poisson Rouge, like, this, and so it was weird because he would go around, and so what some people would do is they would wait till, like, he walked past them to, like, go tell somebody else, and then they would start filming. But like, apparently taking pictures was fine, so I'm not really sure how you distinguish. But then one guy, so like the security guy's like right here, and this dude is here, and he's got like his girlfriend in front of him. So he puts his arm around his girlfriend, and then he held up his phone like next to her head, so the guy couldn't see.
Damn.
Because he was close enough that he didn't need to like film over people. It was like second row. It was really funny. But like, yeah, so not really anything to say about that show.
That would be great if you should have been like, I work for Instagram.
Yeah,
Give him a
right.
card.
No, I thought about doing that. I thought about being like,
I actually am here.
I'm here on behalf of Instagram. Here's my card that says Swing Skillionaire on it.
I too am here on behalf of Instagram. You can see I have their app on my phone, and that's how you know that I am here for
I'd be
Instagram.
like, but I have a special version of the app. Let me show it to you. Yeah, so it was weird because it was like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you not want people to know? Because the other thing about Navel of Scaris is, and I've said this on this show before, their albums are terrible, but I will go see them live because like all the problems are either they're actually somewhat addressed. Like they do things, and you know, like that I have a problem with on the album, and I'm like, they're not doing that. That's great. And then also live has a tendency to wash over a lot of mistakes just because the mix is never great, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you really want people to know that you're this good live, because if your marketing material for your live show is your album, like, I would, like, I saw them the first time live by accident. Like, they were on a bill with Black Crown Initiate. I was going to stay for 2 songs, but then I was like, this is good. I'll stay for the whole thing. Like, so I don't know why they didn't want people filming their set. But also the thing with the pat down, like, I don't.
It could also be a venue thing. Could be Le Poisson Rouge's.
No, because they let people film during Allegiant and
so it's just during
and the thing about the, like, with the pat down, them being like, it's the band. Is it because they're Australian and they're like, America's like full of terrorists or something? Like,
and they're gonna put up their phone and then it's got a gun behind it and like
right. Well, like I said, I could have brought my C4 in because
Yeah.
security was just like, we'll take all that stuff out, but we're not gonna like go through it or anything.
Yeah.
So whatever, that was weird. But yeah. So, you know, maybe go see that show if you like metal shows, because it's okay. But yeah, that's it. Do we have any other shows, or can I talk about the night before that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the night before Thanksgiving Eve. So Ivan and I went to the Met to see the Exterminating Angel, which is Thomas Ottes's new opera at the Met. And so I have this thing about the Met, which is like, even if it's some opera I don't really want to see, like, I don't know, like dainty Italian music, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's still entertaining because it's like, it's not really bad music. It's just kind of goofy and antiquated at this point. But the sets are like amazing. Like, just the production quality of everything at the Met is insane. So it's always worth going. So So this opera is based on a Mexican film from like the 60s of the same name, which I haven't seen. I didn't know anything, like I didn't read plot synopsis or anything. Because I'm like, it's in English. I don't need to know anything going in. Like I can just pay attention and it'll be fine. So it was terrible. It was the second worst opera I've ever seen. And the worst one I saw was a student opera at MIT that blatantly ripped off, like, it wasn't it was like quotes. It was literally, he just, like, not the whole thing, but there were tons of quotes. And I feel like the composer probably thought the music was obscure enough that no one would know. He probably didn't think like I was gonna show up to it. I'm sure he didn't even know who I was, but like that this guy who happens to know bizarre 20th century music extensively and also has a bizarrely accurate musical memory would show up to your show. So that was just garbage. That opera was comically bad. So this was frustratingly bad because it probably should have been comically bad, but then there is no comedy when you realize that millions of dollars have gone into the production of it, right?
Yeah.
So it was bad. There wasn't really any music. It was just like incidental sounds that happened. Like there was no themes. There was only like 3 parts. So it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes with a 30-minute intermission. So it's like 2:15, 2:20, somewhere around there. Of music, and there's only 3 points in which there's like chords, okay, and one of those is a Bach quote. He plays a Bach chorale because there were live sheep on stage. I just want to point that out. This is a first for me. I don't know that I've ever seen live sheep in New York. I don't think I've ever seen live sheep in a concert hall. Don't think I've ever seen live sheep at an opera. So kind of like the low rumble before Angren, or however you say it. It was weird because we got there and the curtain was actually up, and the sheep were on stage. So they just sort of like jumped right into it. There wasn't the usual fanfare of like, oh, we raised the chandeliers, which if you've never been to the Met, that's actually super cool. It's like one of the coolest things. And last year the chandeliers were being repaired and they didn't do that. And I felt really bad because I took someone that hadn't been to the opera before and I was like, they're going to raise these chandeliers. And then I was like, that didn't happen. And now I'm super embarrassed.
Were they still being fixed when we went for Lulu?
Yeah, it was all last year.
Yeah. So I didn't see this.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad I remembered this because this is another detail. So the chandeliers were down, but the curtain was up. Then they just start, and then what they actually use the chandeliers as part of the production. So like, I guess the movie is really weird, and it's one of those movies where you're like not given definitive answers about what's going on. So the general gist is that like. So I'm actually confused by a lot of things about this piece or about even the movie is because I'm not sure if you're supposed to sympathize with the characters or not, because they're like they're people in Mexico at like a fancy dinner party. So I don't know if they're they're supposed to be like aristocracy, that you're like, oh, fuck these people, right? Like but so it starts with everyone coming to this dinner party and there being issues kind of with the help, and so then like when the party's going to begin, like the chandeliers go up, and then that scene about everyone showing up and the dinner party, they do it again. The chandeliers come back down, they like exact same thing happens with some differences in what the help does, and then the chandeliers go up again. Okay, so then what happens is they have this dinner party, and then like everyone decides instead of leaving, they're just gonna sleep over. And then the next morning they're like, hey, why did none of us even like think to go home? And they're like, I don't know. And it turns out, oh, it's all spooky. They're stuck in this mansion, whatever. And then like the one woman goes to the restroom and she's like, I opened the toilet and there wasn't water. I could see like we're like floating or something. Like it's just like things don't make sense, it's not explained. They have no food and water, so they eventually like chisel through the living room floor and find a spring. Like nothing makes sense. Okay, and then like all these people gather outside because they hear like, oh, there's these people trapped. But apparently, I thought the thing was floating somewhere. I don't like. Again, nothing makes sense. Oh, another thing. I'm really only getting all of this because I told you it's in English, right? But I can't understand a thing they're singing because apparently intelligibility is no longer important, which I don't know. When I was in school, I was told it was very important that you write things that could be intelligible, which I guess as an English speaker, that doesn't necessarily come across because you're used to listening to music in languages you don't know. So it's not really like ingrained in you whether or not something's intelligible or not, because it's like, well, whatever she said, I don't know what it is. But Otis has just completely discarded that, and he has them sing like they're not melodies, lines that sometimes that are like ridiculously high for no reason, but they completely destroy the diction of anything. So I'm reading the Met titles the entire time, even though it's in English, which was beyond ridiculous. And so what was I talking about? I was talking about, oh yeah, the people are gathered outside and but like they can't go in, and they try to send somebody's kid in, and like the whole thing was just super weird. And so then like at some point near the end, you know, like they manage to leave. But it's gone on, and actually like I didn't know, because again I didn't know the thing, and like I was saying, like I kind of didn't care. I was like I don't care if they die because I'm completely unsympathetic to any of these characters. But again, I don't know if that was the point or not.
Right.
Because they're aristocracy and they seem like terrible people. Like, because it's one, okay, it's so, you know, when people talk about like the psychological experiments, like all the stuff about, you know, prisoner's dilemma and all this stuff, right? Like you create these synthetic environments to find out how people will act. And so on one hand, it could be that like, it's one of those deals where you say, okay, well, the only reason the people did a lot of shitty things was because they were in this impossible situation, right? But the whole point of Lord of the Flies is they don't get a pass for being in an impossible situation. It's still like it's savagery, like people are crazy. So I don't know. So they get out, but then like at the beginning where that scene happens twice without any explanation or reason, whatever. Like it sort of implies that like things are sort of starting over, and like, but again, I didn't really get it. Like I don't know what was happening because nothing was clear. And then one other production note was, so there was a bunch of like electronics. Like there's an Owens Martineau that's featured extensively. And as Ivan pointed out, he goes, why did he's like you never hear orchestral works, like, or not at like big houses. I mean, you do hear, there are lots of orchestral works that use like samples and stuff, but you never hear one where like someone is playing keys, right? People play piano, people play celesta, but no one is ever like playing a Korg and like using patches, right? He's like, why did the progression of the synthesizer stop at the Owens Martineau for the concert hall? Because there's a fair, like Messiaen did it, but when he did it, it was contemporary. But then everyone else since then has just been like, oh yeah, use that. Because all the pieces that use like the DX7 and stuff were not these kind of pieces. They were like weird electronic or chamber pieces or whatever. So they have this Owens Martineau, and they have there's some samples and stuff, and this would make sense if it were opening night. But this was closing night. They should have had this shit hammered out by now. The balance was terrible. Like, there are sections where I see the string players working really hard, and I'm like, why are you having them do that? Because I can't hear them over this sample. And I'm not talking about like they're playing and then the sample happens and then like it's over a second later. Like, no, it's like a 3-minute sample and they're just going like this, and I'm like, I don't know. There's music. I just hear the sample. Like. And so it's like, well, if it was a balance problem, they would have solved it night 2, right? But this is the last night, which makes me think like, if that's how they wanted it. Like, so just like the whole thing was a disaster. So Like I wanted to leave actually. If I wasn't there with Ivan, I would have left at intermission because it was Acts 1. It was the first 2 acts were before intermission, and then just Act 3. I would have left. It was awful. So then hilariously the next day I went to the Juilliard bookstore because I needed sheet music or not sheet music, staff paper, and I needed it like ASAP, so I wasn't gonna order it on Amazon. And I'm going to check out. And the guy in line in front of me was like, yeah, it was just garbage and blah, blah. And I go, you aren't by chance talking about the Exterminating Angel, are you? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I saw it last night. It was the second worst opera I've ever seen. And he looks at me and he goes, thank you. He's like, I was there with, so like the whole concert music scene has this weird like Emperor's New Clothes thing to it, right?
Totally.
And he's like, no one has the balls to say that. I'm like, well, I'm on this podcast where we definitely have the balls to say it. And he was like, yeah, it was just awful. And like, no one gets that or is willing to say it. And I'm like, he's like, it's a crime to write contemporary music that people might want to listen to. I'm like, yeah, I got a day job because that was very apparent to me. And I write whatever the fuck I want. And I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm going to be given a grant because I can pay my rent anyway. Yeah, it's bad. Like he was like this is it. This is the end of our community. And I was like, I can understand why you'd feel that. And I already fled. So it's not really my community anymore. Yeah. So like, there you go.
But if you want to talk about it, we have a safe space for disliking music.
Right? No, and I said, I was like, do you want to come on the podcast? He's like, oh, I need to do it anonymously. I'm like, it's a video podcast.
Well, I mean, hey, we can always go back to Luca masks.
Oh yeah. I was gonna brown bag, but yeah, luchador mask would be better. Yeah. But whatever. Like, it was bad. I'm considering writing a letter to the editor, to like New York Times or New Yorker or something. Because I mean, it was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. It runs over. Otherwise, I would tell you don't go see it.
Yeah.
But maybe next time someone is considering Thomas Adès for something, be like, no, Exterminating Angel exterminated any desire I had to interact with his music. Ugh. It was really bad. It was really, really, really bad. Oh, also bizarrely, so Ivan said a lot of the lines were just lines lifted from the movie, and I was so like, okay. But then I go, wait, was there a librettist on this? And he's like, let's look. Yes. And I was like, so there was a dude whose job it was to like pick lines out of the movie.
Wow.
That it didn't matter because you weren't going to be able to understand them anyway. It was an unmitigated disaster. I have nothing good to, like, there were sheep on stage. That was cool. but I've nothing good to say about this. Nothing.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Wow. Well, yeah. And it goes to show that he was like, yeah, I'd have to do it anonymously. It's like, listen, somebody's got to speak out about how music is bad.
Look, I'm super woke. So like, if I'm carrying the mantle.
So woke I can't sleep.
so woke I can't sleep. If I'm carrying the mantle of what is it? Concert music truthers. What can
I don't know. We'll have to come up with a name for that for Music Wars.
I feel like it should be something Justice Warriors.
I don't know.
Maybe I can think of something with hilarious acronym. I'll just work backwards.
We'll think of something.
We'll think of something. But I'm right now. I'm the only one not afraid to speak the truth. Speak truth to. I mean, it's not really speak truth to power because, like, again, the concert music community is
not a lot of power there.
Not a lot of power there. It's a lot of begging for corporate grants.
Yeah.
Speak truth to terribleness. But yeah, very, very Emperor's New Clothes. That's my take.
Yep.
It was bad. Let the Met know that you don't appreciate them. Like, they're a cultural institution. If this is our culture, we're fucked. Right?
Yeah,
people, I know a lot of times people, like, there's this weird dichotomy, right? Because in other countries, like in countries that have an ethnic identity, they do this thing where they want to perform stuff by living composers from from their country to sort of like export their culture.
Yeah.
But like we have no desire to do that, in part because American culture is already exported everywhere, right? But then people have this idea of like, oh, but like if Justin Bieber is what we're exporting, like that doesn't look great. And I'm like, well, it's way fucking better than this. I mean, Otis is, he's English, like he's not American, he's English, so it's not ours. But I mean, we're not immune to this. Like a lot, like Carter, right, was probably like one of the biggest American composers for a long time, in part because like he was friends with James Levine and he would always program his stuff. I mean, like Carter is arguably even worse than this because this was just like one terrible thing going on when all of Carter's pieces are like, it's like 3 bad pieces played at once. Like that was his whole gimmick, was that he was like, oh, there's like all this stuff going on. And I'm like, oh, all this stuff that like you can't, like, do you think if someone showed you a movie that was the screen was split in 3 and there were 3 movies going on and all of them were very involved and there was always someone talking in each frame like all the time, do you think anyone would claim that like this is a good experience, right? Like I don't know much about like film and TV and stuff.
So somebody did something, well, they tried to do it without it being stupid.
Okay.
And it was I don't remember like any of the specifics. I just remember there was this movie and somebody's like, the future of cinema, right? And it had like, it was partially just because I think it was around when digital editing really opened things up, and it wasn't like you didn't have to
splice film,
right? You didn't have to splice film anymore and tape it back together. And there was some movie that was like 4 panels or like up to 4 panels, like, and so it was multiple cameras going on at the same time, but it was written such that like you could focus. It was supposed to help you focus on the story. Like there would be one main dialogue, and it was timed.
But that's my point. It was at least in service of
and that's
like
what I'm
a
saying.
story.
They tried to do that correctly. It still didn't work.
It failed, but it was at least their heart was in the right place. Right. That's what I was saying. Like I don't really know anything about film, but the limited like criticisms that I have read of film, like oftentimes emphasize like, is this effective storytelling, right? And even so like we were talking yesterday, there's a new H. Bomber guy out. He has one where he talks about VHS, which I feel
that was
is
really
important because especially because we hate on vinyl so much. But he talks about how the limitations of the medium actually impact your perception in a way that services the story. And so like, and it's one of these deals where this is the exact opposite. Like this shit like Carter completely detracts from the intelligibility. It's just a swamp of unintelligibility, and you're just like, what the fuck? Your brain doesn't work that way. So yeah, it's terrible. Concert music is dying because it wants to die. Apparently, it's suicidal or masochistic or something. And it hates. It's my buddy Terry, when Slayer put out God Hates Us All, he goes, it should be called Slayer Hates Their Fans. But I feel like concert music is like, we hate our patrons. Like that's the message.
I mean, I remember when I was in college, and like I had a friend who was a composition major, and I think it was around the same time that you started doing composition, and then I ended up taking like the first year of composition at UW. But yeah, it was, and so I went to some recitals and stuff, and it was just so weird because on the one hand, I was really excited about it in terms of the information they were teaching, right? In terms of, serialism and set theory and stuff like this. And I was like, oh, that's cool. There's some really cool stuff. There's some cool stuff that exists that uses this. And then it was like, and here's the new generation of composer, and it was just like, what is this crap?
It'd be like if you were going to you were going to learn engineering, right? And they were like, dude, we can build a rocket that goes to space, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna build a giant wrecking ball and destroy your family's home. You're like, wait, why? That's not what I want to do. Can we build the rocket? Shut up. Destroy your family's home. And you're like, well, why? I like them. And it's like, no, this is what we're about. This is what we're about. Yes. And if you are not with that, then you go build your rocket ship somewhere else. Have fun financing that. And I was like, okay, I will finance that. But
yeah. I mean, so it was, it was always a mixed bag. Like there would be like one cool piece, because somebody was like, oh, that's a cool idea. Yeah. And then there'd be a bunch of other ones where it was just like, listen, we can't like not give them the degrees? Like we gotta what standard can we maintain and still get people to pay us tuition and then give them a degree in composition? And like, I remember, I mean, at least it was interesting because like I had the one professor who seemed like really good, and partially because of his attitude and because he did tell people stuff was crap a lot of the time. And like I remember the first homework assignment I turned in was terrible, and he was basically like, okay, so here, see, you're in the key of G. I'm like, I like the key of G. What's wrong with the key of G? It's like, the point is to not be in a key. This is atonal music. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. But it was great. You know, that's like, you want that in a professor to some degree. You want them to be like honest and be like, listen, I mean, do whatever you want in your free time. Like this one dude in the class was like really into musical theater, and he just wanted to write musical theater. And the guy was, and I remember someone else in the class kind of being like, okay, so like, why are you taking composition?
Right?
Because like, just take theory class. Like,
no, and I actually had to say that to somebody in grad school. He was an undergrad, and he was just like, he's like, I don't want to do any of this. And I was like, well, maybe you should go somewhere else and do something else then. Yeah. Like, that's a perfectly valid life choice.
Yeah.
But don't like, it's like, you know, I'm like, I didn't want to take forestry, so I didn't take any forestry classes. Like, you know, do something else with your time, buddy.
Yeah, it's weird. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's weird, and like, you know, everything market wise in terms of like, there's I think it's also it's so far from marketable that they're like, why worry about?
Well, that's the thing, is there's the, you know, people talk about the pendulum, right? And the deal was like 10, 15 years ago, all the stuff that orchestras were performing was actually like, they were trying to be marketable. And so you would get a lot of like crossover stuff. So like a big draw for orchestras are the soloists, right? Because you can sell not just the music, but the personality. And so all the soloists, instead of playing like Tchaikovsky for the billionth time or like Sibelius because it's hard, like they would come and play like, I don't know, some, you know, Christmas music garbage or like whatever, or like they would do a collaboration with some indie band, right? And then the orchestras started playing, they were doing like that Zelda music, or like we're playing Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And you're
of that
like,
now.
oh, fuck this shit. And so then what the composers were doing was they were writing this neo-romantic, like it basically just sounded like Rachmaninoff. But what they failed to understand is that like, okay, you're like an old person, right? No one is going to be attracted to this music because of who you are. So you have to stand completely on the legs of the music, right? Because the thing is, like, Nick Cave, right? It's like, people know who Nick Cave is. So when he wrote a piece of garbage concert music, people showed up because they were like, I love Nick Cave. No one knows who the fuck you are, old dude. So like, all you have to stand on is the music. So then if you're going to give them something that sounds like Rachmaninoff, why wouldn't they just listen to Rachmaninoff? So the pendulum is gone. It's not a pendulum. It's just been an oscillator between offers nothing and offers so much that it's equivalent to nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a sweet spot where it's like, okay, it's something that a person can listen to and perceive to be music, but also has stuff in it that they're not going to get anywhere else.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, the concert music community is completely blind to this. It's like, no, it either needs to be patronizing or impenetrable. Like, like that's it.
Right. Well,
those are the two modes we have.
That was the way I thought of it around that time in music school was like, on the one hand, I was always interested in, you know, sort of musical progress. Like you said, something, you know, trying to find things that people haven't heard, and then, but balancing that with music that humans, the way I thought of it was that normal people can listen to, right? That the average person who isn't necessarily obsessed with music, but isn't necessarily ambivalent to it, can hear and go, oh, music is happening. Oh, that's interesting. But like, you know, and and right, but this like that. There's the middle. There's no perception of any middle ground because you're either like it's got to be. If it's weird
because
enough,
you either have your head way up your ass from
Right.
being in that community, or you've rejected it outright, but then gone off into this like, I want something my parents can listen to, and you're like, no, because they can already listen to Rachmaninoff, which, by the way, I hate Rachmaninoff. People don't know that. I also hate Chopin, so you can all be mad at me now, like everyone else ever. Go listen to Liszt instead. Yeah, no, it's just bizarre. It's like, I don't know. It seems pretty obvious to me.
Yeah.
Maybe someone will figure it out.
I don't know. But anyway, we've got a safe space for talking about how bad
Yeah,
music is here.
it's good. You can be a hater all you want.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we covered that pretty good. Children of Bodom was the better Play Your Old Shit tour.
And by far the better value.
Yeah. Oh, yes, by far.
Oh shit! So I didn't realize this. So Children of Bodom, it was like $30 is the best show. Then Dream Theater was like $75 and it was bad. And Exterminating Angel, I didn't even buy the tickets I normally buy, right? Which are like $220. I paid $95, and that was
no.
like that. Those I was like, I'll buy the for me the budget seats to the opera are $95.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted me to sit through that again, you would probably need to pay me $300. It was bad. Yeah. All right. That's the theme.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm turning it off now.